guys, I'm Jetpack, and we're back to the tiny homes in Nancy Drew series. This week, the wheel landed on Nancy Drew Legend of the Crystal Skull. So this build started off totally inspired by Southern architecture, and everything was going great, and then this happened. I know, total vibe switch. But the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to do a darker build. Legend of the Crystal Skull is a dark and stormy game, and I know the series isn't about recreating the locations in the game, but the vibes were just all off. It's rainy in New Orleans. Nolans? Anyway, and a powder blue and white house just felt wrong here. So she got a bathy goth makeover. If you haven't seen this series before, I'm creating a tiny home based on each of the Nancy Drew games. Not all of them are homes per se, but to be a tiny home in The Sims, it has to be under 100 squares. For the first video, I'm going to be working on the exterior, landscaping, structure, all that. And in my next video in the series, we will decorate the interior. I'm absolutely torn on who should live in this house though. I can't decide if it would be more fun to imagine Henry Styles or Renee. There's also Lamont and Dr. Beeford. They'd honestly all be so fun to do. Again, not all these builds are particularly for someone from the game, but it helps to inspire my design a bit. I added these decorative trees to line the driveway. To make them less uniform, I spun them a few different directions and even shrunk a couple. Trees don't grow exactly the same, so I like how real this makes the build feel. For the landscaping, I took inspiration from Southern gardens, and something I did not know before living in the Southern US is what a romantic garden was. In my mind, a romantic garden was a very prim and properly trimmed hedge maze, or maybe a perfectly square rose bush, but that's not it at all. Romantic gardens are more natural style, not unkempt, but not rigid. I feel like they appreciate nature as is, rather than what we can shape it to be. Wow, okay, who do I think I am? Anyways, that was the inspiration here. Bushes that are a little uneven and slightly creeping onto the path. I feel like it really fits the vibe of the game too. Just creepy crawlies. I added a dragon statue for Bruno, which I don't think I ever thought about it, but why would Henry think that Bruno wanted his ashes in there? There's an entire graveyard yards away, and he's like, nah, I think my uncle belongs in the backyard. Henry, that's gonna tank the resale value of this home. If you thought having a graveyard just beyond your backyard was rough, making one in your backyard is worse. While I was landscaping, I added a lot of mud. It just made so much sense, and I could practically hear Nancy trudging through the graveyards with the muck sticking to her sneakers. I hope she took her shoes off before walking inside the Bole Manor. I don't like mud in the house. I can't imagine graveyard mud in the house. I bet you can guess what's going to go in the backyard here. I threw a fountain in for our spider friend, whose name is escaping me right now. If you remember his name, leave a comment, please. I don't mind spiders if they don't mind me, meaning they can live outside, thanks. I did the residents a favor and threw in a gate to lock out intruders, or maybe lock in the dead. I love the ivy growing over the walls for this one. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about the Sims 4 neighborhoods, so when I started this, I was overwhelmed, didn't know which neighborhood to build this in. I googled Sims 4 New Orleans, and it popped up that Willow Creek is actually based on New Orleans, and it's French colonial Creole style. I feel like there's a whole lot of lore with the Sims 4 game that I don't even know where to start with. I also know I've been pronouncing New Orleans like 17 different ways during this video, so that's great too. Just like a lot of my other builds, I covered this one with grass. It just makes it feel so much more three-dimensional. Typically, romantic gardens have a lot more winding, aimless paths in them, but with this lot size, I did with it what I could. I wanted the painted conchs from the game. Like, you can get these little debug mushrooms, but they're more for like cooking. And finally, you guessed it, it's the cemetery portion. I used piles of dirt to make a few fresher graves, and then some landscape paint for the plots that are a little more lived in, so to speak. I threw in benches for future living visitors to chat with their loved ones. Or their hated ones. Imagine visiting a cemetery where your enemy's buried just to brag about living. It's kind of iconic. I also added the decorative smaller fence. In my eyes, the big path on the left of the home leading to the back is for funeral processions, so this little fence is a guide for cars to stay on the road. That's it. At the end here, I'll show you a walking overview of everything in the exterior. Tune in next time when we decorate the inside. Leave a comment as to what style you think I should go with. I'm currently thinking gothic or witchy vibes. Make sure you like and subscribe, check out our other socials, and I'll see you around. Bye!